my whole life, I've noticed that I'm really good at following my intuition, and that has always led me to the right spot. And that is something that is invisible and I can't touch, but I know I really have to trust, even if I'm terrified.
That's Isabel Muller, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Cara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast, where I invite my favorite humans, the awesome, the up to something, and the extraordinary to come and share their story. I hope that you'll be left entertained, inspired, and moved to take action towards living your most powerful life. Have you ever been on a camping trip or snowboarding and thought, I really wish I could change my underwear, but you don't, because it'd be a complete pain in the ass to take off your shoes and your pants and then your base layer and like everything else you're wearing just to change your underwear? Great news. Today's guest, Isabel Muller, has solved this problem. Her brand SWTCH created underwear that you can switch out at any time without taking off all of your layers, so you're always wearing a fresh pair. On this episode, we talk about where this idea came from, why it personally matters to her, and how her business is changing the way we'll all think about underwear forever. All that and so much more coming up, but first, if you're interested in discovering what possibilities and businesses are available for you to create and to live your most fulfilling life, please visit thepowerfulladies.com/coaching and sign up for a free coaching consultation with me. There is no reason to wait another day to not be living your best life, when you instead could be running at full speed towards your wildest dreams today. Well, welcome to the Powerful Ladies Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. I'm really excited for everyone listening to hear about your business and how it can revolutionize women's lives in ways they never thought they needed revolutionizing.
I'm excited too.
Well, let's begin. Let's tell everyone who you are and what your business is.
Sure. My name is Isabel Muller, and my new business is called SWTCH. Our MVP, our minimum viable product, is a sporty and sustainable mid-rise bikini underwear that I designed for the active woman. And that means that there is a fastener, like a flat and flexible fastener at each hip that is super seamless. You can't see under your clothes, and it allows you to change your underwear without having to take your whole outfit off. So, like if you're on the way to work after the gym, or you're in a tiny airplane bathroom, you don't have to strip your whole outfit off just to switch out your underwear. And I guess I can start by talking about how I thought of the idea. Okay.
Sure.
So I've had the idea for years. It would just kind of pop up in scenarios when I wished I had the product. But it wasn't until last year, when I was on a camping trip, it would come up a lot for me when I was camping. Like, for the campers listening, when it's cold, you're especially wearing a lot of clothes, maybe a couple pairs of leggings, socks, shoes, and to change at night, like say you want to get in your pajamas, or if you need to change for a hike, you have to take off your shoes and then lie down and change in your tent. I mean, depending on what type of tent you have. If you have like an 8-person tent, it's different. But my partner and I backpack and also camp, do car camping, but we have a pretty simple setup, and you have to lie down and like shimmy your pants off.
Yep.
And then, change your underwear and then put them all back on. And those were the most inconvenient moments. And finally last year, I was just like, I'm over this. There's got to be a sporty, chic, like athletic vibe underwear out there that fastens at the hips. It's made for backpackers or athletes, or anyone. Like, there has to be a product out there. So I was finally like, well, I'm going to, do my research and see if there's one out there. And after doing research, and asking around, like I Googled for hours and hours and hours, and I couldn't find anything. And I was really, really surprised, because this was something I needed and I wanted so bad. And talking to other friends and other women, they're like, oh yeah, that has to exist, right? But I hadn't thought about it. So that's when I kind of got a bee in my bonnet about figuring this out. Still at that point, I hadn't thought that I would, make it or anything. But I wanted to talk to someone about it. I have a background in interiors, so I didn't at the time know a lot about the fashion world and how that works, but I imagined it was similar to the same process of, designing custom furniture, like, reaching out to the right people and knowing who can make it. So I put out a couple feelers, and like the first text I got back was within 15 minutes. I texted my cousin who's been in LA for a while, and she has been in the fashion world and has a lot of connections. And I asked her, do you know anybody that is in product design or the fashion world that I might be able to run an idea by, just to see, if they know if it exists, or if it doesn't, maybe I could, I don't know. I didn't know, like, I didn't have the confidence at that point to be like, I'm going to make this. But so I heard back from my cousin really soon after texting, and she was like, yes, I have the perfect person to connect you with. Her name is Kay. She is a friend of mine, and she's been in the fashion world for like 30 years. I'll text connect you guys, see what happens. So she group texted us, and she was like, Ryland's cousin Isabel has an idea. She just wants to run across. Do you have time? And Kay texted back, and she said, hey, so nice to meet you. I'd love to talk about it. I'm so slammed right now. Is on retainer for some big athletic companies, and was slammed at the time. But she was so kind and was like, I'd love, she's all about female creators, and was like, I'd love to hear your idea. Please send me an email. I have no idea when I'm getting back to you, but just send it all. Happy to sign an NDA if you need me to. Didn't know what an NDA was. Googled that. Non-disclosure agreement. And I sent her this big email with all my hopes and dreams for the product. And, it's so much beyond camping. I've spent my whole life kind of needing and wanting this product, but never really knowing exactly what it looked like. Leaving hot yoga and wanting to go get lunch with friends, but like, oh, I gotta shower, I gotta change, like, I don't have time. Saying no to so many experiences and activities and social gatherings because I was afraid that I was going to get a UTI if I sat in my wet underwear any longer, or like a yeast infection, or I was very limited because I didn't have this solution. So I really poured my heart out to this woman that I was putting trust in, and I emailed her this whole, and I was like, okay, that feels good. Like, I had an idea and I emailed someone about it. Like, that's an accomplishment. Cool. Like, maybe she'll know what to do. And I was like, I'll probably hear back from her in a couple weeks. It was a Friday afternoon. And I had been, at that point kind of getting excited about the idea. Like, oh, like, I'm connected with someone, I put a feeler out and I got a reaction. This is cool. So I sent that email out, and it was like 3 p.m. And then I remember I was out to dinner with some friends and my partner. And I remember an email popping up on my phone, and it was like 10 p.m. And I was like, what? And I got an email back from her, and long email. It was like and it started, I forget the exact sentence, but she was basically like, this is fucking amazing. Like, I have to be a part of this. I have so many ideas. There was a novel of like relating and other ideas and other concepts and how this product could really help this slew of women. She brought up the concept of moms, postpartum or during pregnancy, like when you can't even, see your toes and you kind of peed your pants, or like you just need to change your underwear, or like you're managing like all these toddlers, or postpartum, like you have no idea what's going on there, and you can't rely, and other situations came up, like moms was a huge one, just like athletes in general on the slopes, you get your period, what are you going to do? Or like leaving the gym and wanting to go hang out with friends, which was a huge scenario of mine, or traveling, like on a road trip for hours, or, and it was really incredible to get such positive, strong feedback from someone who is like well recognized and someone who knows what she's doing. So I've gone on a tangent, but
no, this is perfect. It's great.
Okay, great. She believed in me, and I, up until then, had just been talking to my partner about it, who's a man. So he's relating, but he doesn't actually relate. And my friends, and it was just really inspiring to get that email. And then from there, I was like, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could make this a product. So that was last July. And now we just recently launched, kind of soft launched our website. And it's been really tricky because of the pandemic. We'd never planned to launch right now. So it's a pretty big obstacle, but we've pivoted and checked in every step of the way to kind of figure out what is the next best step for Switch and how to get it to the people. So that's why we launched on Indiegogo, like with a pre-order format, not only to expand our community and figure out what our first production might look like, but get more funding as well. We did a friends and family fundraising round, and it ended a little bit before COVID started. So it was kind of cut short and very hectic. So we decided to continue through that. So that's where we're at now. Yeah.
When you look back at your life before you started taking on Switch and brainstorming and figuring it out and launching this business, did you imagine yourself becoming having an underwear empire? Was that ever in the game plan?
No. No, for so many reasons. I was looking at the questions that you typically ask in your podcast, and it was like, one of them was like, what are you shocked by? And I was like, that I'm an entrepreneur. Like, what am I laugh at it a lot. When I'm not completely terrified of my life, I laugh at it. And no, underwear, no. I always thought I would do something creative. I grew up being passionate about creative writing. I was a huge poetry girl. Like, that's how I dealt with my feelings, was writing. And I ended up majoring it. I majored in poetry in college for my first semester. That didn't work out, but and ended up studying interior design, which really clicked for me. So I'm not surprised that I'm still going in the design direction, because technical and like engineering and creative design really makes sense for me, because I feel like my brain is very split. My right, left brain are balanced, rather than being like extremely creative and, not as much balanced
Analytical.
on the other side. Yeah, exactly. But so it makes sense because I need that balance. I really like the organization and then the creation.
Me too.
Yeah, it's just, it feels good. Feels
Mm-hmm.
right. But the fashion world is not where I thought I would be, just for so many reasons. A major reason is that when I was in my like mid-teens, I wasn't diagnosed till I was 18, but in my mid-teens, I developed an eating disorder. And that has been something that I, have struggled with my whole life. I'm in recovery. I'm doing great, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a disease and it is a disorder, and every day is a struggle in its own little way. But
Mm-hmm.
having a career that's based around the female body and how it moves and how to make it comfortable, the idea of making it comfortable and addressing female needs, I understand how I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
But the fashion aspect and the highlight of the female body and being in this industry now is very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure it all is part of the plan, and breaking through the barriers that I need to in my recovery and my my progress,
Mm-hmm. What
So yeah.
What are you putting in place, or how are you thinking about it differently, knowing that, that's what you're recovering through and that's what you're working through?
um I am very observant of how women are portrayed when they're modeling product. A huge challenge for me that has come through because of the pandemic was doing an in-home photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
We were scheduled to do this really cool photo shoot with a real studio and models, and I drafted this really amazing, diverse group of women to present this product, and we had a producer and a photographer.
Yes.
Not my first time doing all that, so it was exciting, and but it all got cut short because of COVID and not being able to, meet in person. So, but I didn't want to stop our progress, so I figured it out, and I'm quarantining with my partner Kyle and then my cousin Vanna, and she just happens to be a model actress and works in the social media world, so that has definitely come to my advantage. And Kyle is a photographer, and they both do video, so it kind of just lined up. And I was like, okay, fuck it. I guess I'm modeling, and so are you, Vanna. And Kyle's gonna take our pictures, and it was really a friends and family effort. And we borrowed all this equipment from a photographer friend who used to shoot all my interiors, and it really, and but I was really nervous. I was really nervous to make sure that I was portraying my product in a way that made women feel good about their bodies. And it's so hard these days. Like, I was self-conscious about, the lack of diversity culturally in the photo
Mm-hmm.
shoot. And also, like, since there's only two of us, there's not really a diverse representation of body type. But it just was a compromise we had to make to get the product out there. And, my goal is to be as representational as I can be of all women while still targeting our main demographic,
Mm-hmm.
which is really tricky. And I think because I have a history of body dysmorphia and eating issues, I'm hyper aware.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to a fault. Like, it doesn't let me relax about it. I'm like, oh, does this person look too thin here? Or like, can I even say that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. And even with that, like, when we were choosing the models for our photo shoot that someday we will have, I felt so out of my element, like judging people to fit my brand. You know, like it really should be anybody, but like we also want to have a balance and we need to make sure, you know, there's one of each size sample. We only have 5 samples circulating right now. And so that's all been a struggle, but it's also been very interesting. But I think that, you know, to get back to really your main question, I think that my goal for our brand is to be as inclusive as possible while encouraging that versatility and athleticism and power that we all have, and making sure that women who are seeing our content feel included but also inspired to be comfortable voicing their needs, which is what Switch is really all about. You know, we have vaginas, we need options.
Yeah.
And that being okay. So yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into what do you really think makes a powerful lady? And what do those words mean to you separately? And what do they mean to you when they're combined?
I think that for me, what it means to be powerful is being comfortable voicing my needs. I've spent so much of my life not feeling comfortable having needs and feeling like my purpose was fulfilling the needs of the people who love me to make them continue to love me. And I think the switch in your brain when you, no pun intended.
Maybe it was.
Right. When you realize that your needs matter the most, that is when you're powerful. When you know that, but also make yourself of service to what you're passionate about, I think that is even more powerful. I think it all really comes back to intuition for me. My whole life, I've noticed that I'm really good at following my intuition. And that has always led me to the right spot. And that is something that is invisible and I can't touch, but I know I really have to trust, even if I'm fucking terrified. It's like a pull I can't resist. Like I can't, there's not really an option. But it's also really hard to follow your intuition because of everything we grow up knowing, you know, like it's still written, you know, in our childhood that, you know, as girls, you can be awesome and brave and accomplish things and be great, but in the end, you're going to be married, and you know that's your goal. You know, and Disney princesses. I was thinking about that today because I had a song from Pocahontas stuck in my head. Lord knows why.
Just Around the River Band? Was it that one?
The one that's like, do you ever hear the wolf cry to the blue?
The color of the wind.
The color of the wind. I don't know. I meditated and then that popped into my head. Anyway, I was thinking like, oh, that's such a great, like, powerful female movie. But, you know, it's all about her just like ending up with John Smith at the end. Like, you know, media and movies and books, like, well, not books, but social media and movies are really starting to change finally. But I think for my generation and like a little bit in and around, that still is in your brain.
Yeah.
Like your goal is to serve someone else and be good at it. And that's not okay. Like our goal should be to serve ourselves in a really like honest, intuitive way. And then see what happens and see what like love and opportunities grows around that.
I love that.
Yep.
Well, in the month of May in Thrive Collective, we were taking on clarity. And one of the first conversations we had was, what does it mean to really listen to your knowing, right? We all have this knowing, like we already know the answer most of the time when we're trying to make a decision or make a choice. And we were talking about like different ways that we can listen to that more, right? Our intuition, the knowing, whatever's already there. What do you do to stay connected to it with it being so important to you and the path that you've been on so far?
It's really hard. I've especially been struggling in quarantine. I really struggle with anxiety, which I think is at times, I think that's the one thing that's louder than my intuition for me.
Mm-hmm.
It really fights it. They're like opposite batteries.
Yeah.
So when my anxiety is so loud and I often wake up with, it feels like those weighted bands that you put around your ankles and run. Like it feels like one of those is strapped around my heart and lungs when I wake up in the morning. And that is a huge obstacle for me. So I guess in two parts, like honoring my anxiety and working through it is the only true way that I can really connect with my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier before I was trapped inside with nothing but my body and my computer. But I've also noticed, and this is still something that I'm still understanding, but I've also noticed that whether I like it or not, my intuition is driving me. I think the important part of it is remembering that it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety can really cloud me and feel like nothing is going to work out and nothing's going to be okay. And why did I do this? And who do I think I am designing underwear? And like, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not valid. I'm not capable. I'm not strong. But whether I like it or not, like, it's like a seed. It's like, it's growing whether I like it or not. Even if there's rain or storm or, so what I really try to do, and honestly, preparing for this podcast, like looking through your questions and really writing and understanding my answers to what might come up,
Mm-hmm.
it made me really proud of myself. So I really do try to look back and remember of what I have accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps me listen more clearly to the knowing, to the intuition. Like I got an alert on my phone a couple days ago that I graduated from community college 5 years ago. And like the amount that I've accomplished during that time is like blows my mind.
Like what? What are some things you're proud of?
Well, it kind of just reminds me of the path that's kind of taken place since I graduated. My graduation day was a little sad because I didn't have any family there, but my friends grouped together and my boyfriend at the time, and like to really support me. And like, I was graduating from community college. I didn't think that was a big of a deal, but my friends were like, no, it is a big deal. You're graduating college. We love you. They took me out to dinner. It was incredible. And then that was a big summer for me because that's when I moved from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles. And it just reminds me of this huge pivotal moment in my life where I was planning to move to Los Angeles and go to FITM to continue my interior design degree. But after I moved to LA with that plan, like I had it all planned out. I had been working for this interior design firm in Santa Barbara, but they were based in LA. So I was going to go to school and then I was going to work part-time at this firm. I was so ready to sign my name on that $50,000 loan. Like I was all in. And then 1 month into moving to LA, like the month before school, I had been working for this firm and full time because I had the time and I needed the money. And they were like, so you don't need to go to school. You're great. We love your work. You fit in here. You're helping us. Like, we'll give you a job. Like, don't go to school. We'll give you a job. And I was like, what? I was mad. I was happy. I was excited. Mainly mad because I had made all this entire plan for myself, and I was in control of this path that I was on. And I moved to LA. I got an apartment. We decided on the apartment because it was between my partner at the time's work, and it was between my work and school. And then, them being like, we'll give you a full-time job as a junior interior designer. And that's like the job after the job that I'd be looking for after school.
Right. You got to skip a few spaces.
Yeah. So it was a huge decision for me to make. I, in the end, decided to take the job. And it's probably one of the best things I ever did. Financials aside. But it's kind of like all these like jumping off points. Like, it reminds me of that moment, and then being like, wow, I'm really good at this and I really love it. Like, this is cool. Like, this is, I love design and I love this job and I love my coworkers. And then every year I just felt myself getting more ambitious and like, I can do more. I can have a higher position. I can handle that. Honestly, I probably took on way more than I could emotionally and mentally take. But an interesting part of my disease is that I am constantly trying to be better. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But I kind of think of my disease and that as another person. I'm like I'm two people. That evil girl who shames me is in the back of my head, and sometimes she like picks herself up and starts walking around the room and talking to me, and sometimes she's like in her corner and I've got her like soothed.
She's in timeout.
Right. So my ambition kind of has it's like the two, the devil and the angel on your shoulders.
Yeah. They both contribute to your ambition. Yeah.
In a good way and a bad way, but mostly honestly good. But only when I'm working on it. So anyway, I took that job. I worked there for a few years, and then that reminds me of, you left that job for a reason. And I left that job because of a lot of reasons, but I mainly was feeling stifled and wanted to grow more, and felt like I wasn't being able to connect with my creativity very much. So I made the choice to leave and explore other parts of the design field. So I did freelance staging, and I did like freelance project managing for another firm. And that's when I started to realize that I can create and design my own life and like have it actually do what I want it to do, while accepting that shit's going to come out of nowhere.
And how exciting is that? Like, I think that's a really profound thing to know. Like, that's honestly the thing I want everyone to know, which is why I created Powerful Ladies.
Yeah. It's incredible. Like, sometimes nothing goes as planned, but sometimes it doesn't matter because you're still reaching like the end goal. But those decisions I kept making were building this confidence that I didn't know I was building. But I started to build this confidence around my creativity and my eye. Up until that point, like working at a firm, I was doing very tedious, like similar work, and I never really had the opportunity to be like, let's do this. For the actual like concept. I was more behind the scenes. So to start doing like decorating and being looked at as more of a singular professional, not just someone else's employee, really, I started to be like, oh, like people listen to me. Like I can say words and them happen. So that really started to build this nice foundation in me, and that's what inevitably led me to feel confident enough to start my own interior design business, because all of a sudden I had people asking me to design their house, and I did it. That's another thing. I always say yes.
And then you do it.
Yeah, and then I do it. I just do it, even if I don't really know what I'm doing. I figure it out, but I never say yes unless I know I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that goes along with the, fake it till you make it thing. Or
I think it's the real secret. I think that's the secret to being an entrepreneur, right? Like, you never know all the answers, but you just have to start. And there's a few key things that I want to really highlight for you and everyone listening, because you mentioned like following your intuition, making decisions that like kept building on each other. And you were really making choices that you're like, well, that sounds more fun. That sounds more interesting. That sounds like I get to be more of me. And like you kept kind of following what gave you access to more of you. And that's where like crazy things show up. Like when you get to be more of you, then all of a sudden all these people show up and you're like, but wait, where did you come from? Like you said, you're like, people do what I say. It's weird.
Yeah. No, you just described it really well. Yeah.
So are you still currently, do you still have your interior design business while you're creating Switch?
I am slightly. I've stopped accepting new clients, but I am still working on one project at this point, and seeing it through. Yeah. It's very tricky with quarantine because a lot of my job is done on site. So I've had to shift to do it all virtually, which is hard on me and my client, but we're making it work. And it is really difficult to toggle between, even though they're both in the design world, it's hard for me to shift gears. But I'm really grateful because, that's income and that's still me creating. And so, but I am looking forward to be able to focus on one company.
At least for now.
Yeah, at least for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most entrepreneurs I know are all multipreneurs, especially the creative ones, because you just have too many ideas. Like,
right.
It doesn't stop. So you need to kind of give them all a place to live. And you, just like you were, assigning identities to different parts of your brain, I encourage clients to do that all the time, right? Like sometimes Patty Perfect shows up and wasn't invited to the party, right? How do we tell her to come back? And it's true, right? We all have these parts of our personalities or our brains that everything's a yin and a yang. It helps us do this, but it shouldn't do this, right? Like when party animal shows up and it's a work function, it doesn't go so well. When they show up and it's a party, it's great. So how do we get into control? Kind of like the Disney movie Inside Out, right?
I love that movie.
Right? How do you tell it when to show up or encourage it, or tell it like, hey, I heard you. You're here because you're freaked out. I heard the message. I'll take care of it. You can sit back down.
Right. Sometimes it feels like that last scene though, when they're in a cat's brain. Yeah. That made me laugh so hard. I don't know. I laughed. Maybe it's because I have cats, but just like stomping all over the buttons.
For sure.
That's how I feel.
No, I totally understand that, right? And every entrepreneur has founder's fraud, like regularly, if not daily or hourly, because when you're in the project, you're so excited and you're like, okay, and you're doing the work, and then you pick your head up and you're like, wait, I thought there was somebody above me. What happened? I'm in charge? Shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
shit
okay.
is right.
What
did I do?
Yeah.
What did I get myself into?
Yes.
That's reminds me of, back in the day when we wrote our resumes and knowing Excel was really important.
Yes.
It's still important, but I laugh all the time at the phrase proficient in Excel
Yes.
because everyone wrote it on the resume, but you didn't really know how to do Excel, but you knew that if you got the job, you'd learn it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's like the fine line, but that's kind of always how I feel. Like me just being like, I'm proficient in Excel. Yeah, okay. I can do this. Like,
No one watched me Google all the answers and functions.
right? Just like low-key on YouTube, figuring out how to make spreadsheets. Turns out I'm amazing at Excel now. But when I started writing that, I was not good. But that's still how I feel. I feel like an imposter.
Yep. It's pretty common. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the good news is you're in great company.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I think also you're talking about how you've been gaining confidence, right? You've been gaining confidence by doing it. Like you weren't sitting at home being like, today I'm adding 2 scoops of confidence. Like that's not how it works. So the same thing will happen in being an entrepreneur, right? Every milestone you check, that's why it's so important to celebrate those things. And there are moments in my entrepreneurial journey where I wish I knew less than I do, because there's a part where you know too much and like you know just enough where you're like, I am not doing steps like 8 through 20. And you know they're there, but you don't know what parts of them you're not doing right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think sometimes people who really just like have no idea what's supposed to happen, like it's easier because you're like, I don't know, we'll figure it out tomorrow.
Right.
And I'm envious of that sometimes. And I think being able to just know, like you've said, like you can figure anything out. And if not you know how to phone a friend.
Right.
That's how the whole world works. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Google, phone a friend, go to the library, right?
I definitely feel the pressure though of needing to, I think I'm supposed, even though I know, I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time, I feel pressured to know. It's like, how dare I try something without knowing how to do it? Like, it's your own fault you're anxious because you didn't go to school for this. Like, it's your own fault you're scared because you weren't already an entrepreneur. Like, also, I'm still getting used to saying the word entrepreneur because I always think of a man when I hear that word.
Yeah.
And I hate it. But it's still, there's this little part of me that's like, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm just like doing some stuff,
Yeah.
Or I equate it with success as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter if you're succeeding or if you're failing or just you putting yourself out there and you putting yourself out there with an idea that you're passionate about and trying to make a business out of it makes you an entrepreneur.
Yes. Yeah. There's a course I do or a workshop called From Creative to Entrepreneur. And it's targeted to people who are creatives that are making stuff that aren't giving themselves credit as entrepreneurs and just need to layer in a few things to like really make it work. Because the only gap between a business and a hobby is that you get paid to do one and the other one costs you money. So there's like so few things to put in place to turn what you're already doing into a business.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the other foundation of Powerful Ladies and the coaching business, because whether you do eyebrows or you are the, Spanx, Sarah Blakely, it's all female, like people who own their company. They're like owner operated businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have the opportunity to have whatever is in the entrepreneur bubble, right? Like we think that an entrepreneur has to be Steve Jobs, Y Combinator, millions of dollars, all this funding. Right. And it's like, no, that's actually not most small businesses. It's not most businesses at all. Mm-hmm. Like 80% of small businesses are self-funded.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's wild. And I was looking at a statistic the other day of like what the average income is in America for a small business, like sales. And it's like $80,000 a year is the average income or average sales for a small business in America. Because that includes everything. Painters, electricians, plumbers, nails, hair, eyebrow, anyone who doesn't have a boss.
Wow.
And so I almost feel like we need to kind of reclaim that entrepreneur word.
Yeah.
And it's just like 2 generations ago, there were way more entrepreneurs because everyone just had to like figure out how to make money themselves.
Right.
And so I'm glad that we're kind of back in this renaissance of people realizing like we got to figure this out for ourselves. Like no one else has ever, you can't, it's really hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard to get breakaway time or breakaway money when you're employed by somebody else.
Right. What you're saying reminds me of this frustration that came up for me the other day from not being well funded. You know, we did our work to get some funding to get our product created. It was a lot of research and development and branding, but I've been constantly researching new ways to promote our Indiegogo campaign and get eyeballs, you know, like we talked about the other day. And, you know, we are doing Facebook ads. We are doing Instagramming. I've started to email everyone on the planet, sent out like 3,000 emails last week.
Congratulations. Thank you for following the instructions.
I know. Thank you. I actually this is another story, but I actually got blocked out of my email. Like they were like, you reached your quota.
That happened to me. I forgot to tell you that part. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, for everyone listening, we had like an hour huddle last week about things she could do. Yeah.
Yep. But it made me laugh really in the end. But anyway, I actually reached out to a couple other female-founded startups who had an Indiegogo campaign or had a successful one, and I was like, hey, I'm like you. I'm trying to raise money. Do you have any tips for me? And I heard back from this wonderful company. I can't wait for their product. They're called Alder. They're making these rad outdoor pants that are like, they look like trousers, but they're made for fitness. It's totally up my alley. And I asked them, and they gave me so much great advice. And one of them was to check in with some marketing agencies that are specific to Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And I was like, okay, but they sound expensive, but I'll check in. And I got a couple quotes and I talked to them, and it made me so frustrated because everything that they do, you know, and I'm not saying this company, anything. I'm just saying that they require so much money up front to get your Indiegogo campaign funded. And it made me mad because so many startups and so many entrepreneurs are successful because they start funded. And we are a very lean DIY situation. Like I was bootstrapping this project until I, you know, created a pitch deck and reached out to my friends and family. And I was like, please invest in this product. It's going to be big. It's going to be amazing. Trust me. And I was so excited and felt so supported to get to our goal. We'll get close to our goal. But beyond that, like I don't have $10,000 to pay for marketing and PR and all this stuff. Like, and it made me feel really down talking to these companies because they were like, we can't really help you. They're like, we don't know if we're a good fit for you. And I just don't understand. I don't understand, you know, like I'm a DIY startup, like I'm a startup and I need help promoting my Indiegogo campaign, and their dynamics and their strategy is all about putting money into it first and then, you know, getting funded in the first day. And it's all about, putting the money in first and then, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure their method works, and it's that it's a leap of faith, right? Like if they went 10,000, then how much do you need to make on the Indiegogo to make it worth it? Right. So you get all your money back plus the funding that you need. I mean, I totally hear where you're coming from. Like most of the clients that I have, like would cry if somebody asked them to spend $10,000 on anything that wasn't
Right.
like product oriented, right?
Right.
Directly to what their cost of goods sold or services are.
Yeah.
And
It was just it was a little frustrating that it highlighted the part of the startup world and the entrepreneur world that favors already wealthy people. Not to generalize it, a lot of people do, take their steps and, do their due diligence to like plan it out and get, prioritize marketing. But I wish there were options out there to support people that are bootstrapping their projects. To, and I think the wonderful thing that women can spend time learning is knowing that there's people out there like you, and there's other women coaches and other entrepreneur coaches that can kind of help steer in the right direction without this enormous price tag. And attitude. It was all about the attitude. And it wasn't just one company. It was like, well, you should probably just start over and just send us your product and we'll deal with it. And I was like, no.
It's so, you're right. It's rude, right? And my unsolicited business advice to that firm is you should never say no to somebody without giving them another option. Like, if I totally understand if like they've set their threshold at 10,000 and you can't afford it, but then the next thing they should have done is, hey, here's a checklist that we have that you could follow to like take some action on your own. Here's another firm that we know is more approachable. Here's someone who could just do social media for you. Like, if you are in the business of providing people a solution, every person that walks through your door, you should be providing a solution to. It doesn't need to be your 10,000 or 10 million option, but if you're committed to helping people, then help people. Like, they're I don't know. It makes me mad. Like, I'm like, after this call, tell me who they are. They need a phone call.
Right.
No, it's and yes, and after this podcast as well, there are so many people I know who would love to support what you're up to that are way less expensive or might even do some stuff for free. So we'll talk about that too. But
thank you. Sounds great.
There's so many options, and doing things like this, like telling people and sharing and asking, which you're so good at, is how those things get uncovered. Like, you really never know who has the key that you're looking for. And sometimes going down a path and getting so mad is what leads to the solution, or actually leads sometimes to a whole new business. That's how half of my businesses have started.
Right.
I went down a path, got horseshit that everyone was making it so hard when I knew it was not that hard.
Right.
And I was like, that's it. I'm figuring it out, and we're selling this instead.
Great. It reminded me of one of my favorite, just the scenario reminded me one of my favorite, what's the word? Theories. Business themes.
Yeah.
I never come to my client with a problem, an issue, or the word no, unless I have a solution or another yes. And I think that's what make business owners and, the people that are own bosses great and successful, because they know that they're always looking for a solution. And so that conversation with this man who didn't really get my product, made me almost feel more determined. I was like, I'm going to reach my goal, damn it. And I don't need you. Thank you for sharing that.
And for everyone who's now also fired up and is like, I'm supporting her Indiegogo right now. What do I do? Where do they go, and what do they get if they support you?
Awesome. Okay, so we have our Indiegogo campaign up, and I can send you the link, or I don't know how we can make that available, but it's live. We have 40 days left. We have around $30K left to raise, and there are a few different perks, which all are different packages of our underwear. So they're all sold in twos. And they're prepackaged in a handy go bag so that if you're wearing Switch one day, you can keep a fresh pair in your bag or your desk or your backpack, and then switch out easily and then put the used pair back in the bag and throw them in the wash. And so there's the first perk, which is $60, and it's 2 pairs of underwear with the go bag. And then the next 2 perks are, 3 sets and then 2 sets and then 3 sets. And then every perk comes with an additional product and gift.
Cool.
So we're kind of addressing it like pre-order, but also we want to reach our goal. And we did the math, and we only need like 500 more $60 contributions, which I know we can reach. So even if you are listening and you can't contribute, these are really hard times. We totally get it. If you can't contribute, if you can just share the idea, share our page with a few of your friends, a few other women, or just people who love supporting women, I would just be so grateful. Or just share on Facebook. Just tell people about it. We rely heavily on word of mouth. And even if you think that you can't help or your efforts won't work, they will work. Even if you just mention the product to someone, it could just kind of stick in their brain, and they mention it to someone else, and they mention it to someone else, and that's really what's going to help us succeed. So thank you in advance for any utter of the word switch in your future, because it is helping.
Yes, Switch underwear. And if they want to Google it right now, they can just put in Switch underwear into Indiegogo. I'm sure it will pop up.
Yeah.
We'll also have all the links in the show notes at thepowerfulladies.com. So you'll see it everywhere, and we'll tag everything on Instagram as well, right? So you can find it in our Instagram right now. But I mean, ultimately, like Jesse and I were talking about the product after we had the call, because for those of you who know Jesse, he like jumped in and we started, he was throwing us some marketing ideas, which made us all like cry with laughter.
Yeah.
Because there really are so many comedic elements to this product. If you like, there's so many practical uses, but there's also ways to put comedy across it.
Totally.
And we know that Jesse's already like the first male customer who wants his own set. But like to me, it's like we need this. I want every underwear to be like this now, right? Like this isn't a 2-pair option. It's like, how do I get my 7 days a week kit? And if you don't have that, I'd recommend adding that to Indiegogo, because like you're going to need 7 pairs, because you're not going to wear any other underwear unless you have a specific underwear need. But once you realize you can't remove the underwear you have, you're going to be horseshit.
My favorite part of starting this brand is the ideas that come from other people that I didn't previously think of. Like my real, drive behind the product is that I grew up. It's really a determination of frustration around the openness and the open discussion, the lack of open discussion around female anatomy and sexuality. I grew up thinking that vaginal discharge was wrong. I grew up thinking it was weird. I went to my doctor and she didn't tell me it was okay. She just said, yeah, you're probably just going to have to wear a liner every day. And I was like, what? Like,
that's insane.
That's insane. At the time, I wasn't like, that's not eco-friendly, because I didn't know yet that those will never die. The first pad ever made is still in our landfills. That's a whole nother tangent. But I didn't feel comfortable until my early 20s talking about my vagina. Like, hey, I have discharge every day. And when I ovulate, it's out of control. Like, what is going on? And my friends being like, oh, that happens to me too. And, talking to my gynecologist more, reading more about it, and knowing that it's completely normal. And also learning that I learned that every woman has completely varying levels of it. I think it's 1/4 to 1 teaspoon a day. You can vary between all that. When you're ovulating, it's more. Some people don't even have vaginal discharge. I've had some women being, I did a survey to get more information from women. It's an ongoing survey, and a huge percentage a big enough percentage of women, I think it was like 5 to 10%, didn't know really what vaginal discharge was until taking that survey. And then it was so interesting to see like where they learned about it. A small portion of it was at school. This should be front page sex ed. Like, your vagina is perfect. It's okay. The stuff coming out of it is fine. You'll know if something's wrong. Like,
yes, you will. Yes, you will.
But people had to Google it. People had to ask their parents. Like, so vaginal discharge was the main catalyst for me to really want to pursue this. But a lot of people just don't like wearing pads or tampons, and they leak through their underwear and they need to change their underwear. A lot of people have bladder leaks, no matter what age, pregnant, postpartum, once you get in your 50s, 60s, like sometimes you just don't know that you're not done peeing yet. And it's like, okay, it's not weird. It's not gross. It's just, it happens. Sweat. Some people sweat a ton. Some people's underwear are just completely dissolved by 12 p.m. Like, it's not comfortable, and you feel embarrassed talking about it. And I think the biggest reason is the lack of representation because of the diversity of women. We're not talking about it. Everyone's talking about periods now because everyone gets their period. Most people get their period. But the other things, the other leaks, like, they're kind of under the surface, and I'm just so ready to pop that bubble and people talk about what's coming out of their vaginas, and it's totally normal and it's totally okay. And wanting to change your underwear is okay. And no, encouraging the availability of that information, especially to girls in middle school and high school. And it's actually been really cool to see through like my ad insights that, a lot of 18 to 24-year-olds are like on board with Switch. And I think that's because a lot of information is more readily available. Girls are talking about their vaginas. They're more open about their sexuality, like their bodies are more accepted. Anyway, that was a long tangent.
Well, and they're up to things, right? Like, wherever you're at, like, it's just like they're practically, you just are up to things.
Yeah,
like
we're busy.
Yeah.
We're so busy, and we don't. Some people are like, "What? It's not that big of a deal to change your underwear." Granted, that sentence is mostly coming from men, but it is inconvenient. Like, I don't want to step into my work stall and like drop my underwear accidentally on the floor, and it's just about the convenience. And like, back to me saying what my favorite thing was. I love it when women say, "Oh my God," I get these texts all the time. Like, I get texts, I get DMs like, I really wanted your underwear the other day. Like, and they hadn't been thinking about it previously.
Yeah.
Like my friend the other day was like, I went on a jog, and this is even in quarantine. I went on a jog and I had a conference call and I just wanted to change my sweaty underwear. Yeah. And I totally wanted Switch. And she was like, "I'm so ready for Switch life. Like, I'm so ready." Or,
new hashtag Switch life.
Right. Good one. And then, a friend texted me. She's like, "I really," and this was so funny for me because she's not usually like open about underwear stuff. And she was like, "I could have really used your underwear the other day. I like took my pants off and it looked like I had a pina colada in my underwear." Like, she was like, I just love these like, and my aunt texts me like every other day being like, "It happened again. I left my house and I thought I was ready to go, and I guess I wasn't." Like, I just love those messages, and also just the idea that these women are being open with me, and I love that my inbox is a safe space. Like, I get it. I think about vaginas and underwear 24/7, and I love hearing new ideas of how the product can be used. I love talking to Jesse when he was like, I'd love to buy these for my mom, or like I'd love to buy them for my girlfriend. Like there is a sexual innuendo to them.
Yeah.
The funniest question I get from men is, so like, is this a shit your pants thing or a sex thing?
Yes.
And I'm like, I mean, honestly, either, but
They
somewhere
apply,
in the middle,
and there's like
also?
6 other options.
Yeah, like how fun would it be to just like, you're on a date and you like go sneak off into the bathroom and just rip your underwear off, and like there are totally fun sexual things behind it. And women who are backpacking across country and want to pack light, and women who are traveling for work a ton, or like in LA traffic, or I think about women in Texas. Oh my God, if you've ever been to Texas, like it's so hot. Like, or even Colorado. I went to Denver recently, and we were just there visiting, having a nice time. I was just a casual tourist, and it was like 95 degrees. We went to the zoo, and by noon I was like, I think I need to cut my underwear off. Like I was genuinely afraid I was going to get a yeast infection because I was so sweaty. And I ended up making my friends stop at a grocery store to get a pack of underwear, like Granny Hanes. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I need a new pair of underwear immediately. Like, and if I had just had Switch on that day, or like at Disneyland, or at, I've actually never been to Disneyland, but I imagine it would be like that.
I have a great Disney story for that, because we went on whatever the log flume ride is. I was the only one that got soaked, and it was like sitting in a bucket of water, and then I had to walk around the rest of the day. Like, a dry pair of underwear could have changed my life in that moment.
Totally. And there's a few things there. Like, first of all, you're uncomfortable because you feel like you're sitting in water, but there's also a whole urinary vaginal health aspect to that. Like, and the women listening who are super prone to UTIs and yeast infections will really appreciate this. Some women it's fine. Some women, you cannot be in damp underwear or bad shit's gonna happen. And a lot of men don't know that. A lot of people don't know that who don't suffer from these things. But it's probably one of the first things your mom teaches you is like, pee after sex and change your underwear. And sitting in damp, sweaty, or just damp underwear doesn't create a good environment for our vaginas or our urinary tract, because it creates a habitat that's very
it's a tropical
susceptible.
Rainforest.
Right. It's like, ooh, bacteria party. And that will just sneak up into your parts and create infection. And so it's just, there's so many areas we're targeting, and another couple of huge demographics that this product really works for is the diverse body and disabled community. I've gotten a lot of questions about that, and mainly being like, this would be great for like people in wheelchairs or people that are bedridden. Like, why aren't you specifically targeting them? And there are already similar products that are made for diverse body individuals in the disabled community. But what I don't love is that they target them like, and this applies to older women who are starting to experience incontinence. They target them as if, it's like, this is made for you because you're special and you have this condition.
And it's a secret.
And it's a secret. And, you're special, so this will be different. So what I don't love about that is that, I do love that products are being created for these groups of people. Great. But what I love about the Switch mission is that this is for all women, like regardless of your body type, regardless of your capabilities, regardless of your age. Like, we want to change our underwear, and it's okay for any reason and here's the product, so yeah, there's just so many. The military, I've gotten a couple women reached out to us being like, this would be so key for training days, like not having to take off all your gear and your combat boots just to change your underwear. I can only imagine. And that world is so geared towards masculinity, and the apparel is just built from the male figure. And I know it's been adjusted over the years to accommodate different body types and gender, but not that gender identity matters, but just, creating it more accessible for females. They're not thinking about their underwear. Like, can you imagine? I mean, I obviously can't imagine because I'm not in the military, but like being out on a mission and having a yeast infection because you had to like lie overnight in your wet, it's like, this just has to be a staple.
And you can get military contracts, FYI.
I've been looking into it.
Good. No, I do. I mean, there's endless opportunities, and I think it's great that you're leaning in on what your mission is and inviting whoever wants to show up to the party to show up, because there really are so many different ways that this can be used, right? You ride your bike to work. You go to the gym during lunch. You know, all of it. Like, and what freedom to like not have to completely undress to change your underwear, which sounds like a crazy concept right now.
Right. It does sound crazy. It's one of those things where like you don't know you want it until you know about it.
Yep.
And I think the biggest block in brains are like, this is, maybe I'm projecting, but I think that it's scary. It's scary to sign on to a product that's so different and so new because it hasn't been created before, really. Like, it has been created. Like, I don't claim to invent, like, I definitely designed a new product, but up until now, this has only applied to specific people that are not like marketed to in the mainstream ad world. And also the idea that your vagina has needs is still a burden in a lot of brains. Like, I don't want to be different. I don't want to have that need. I don't want to be inconvenienced or be an inconvenience. So I think like, pressing go and getting a switch kit, it's empowering. Like you're making the choice to prioritize your needs.
It's a yes to fresh.
That's great. Writing that one down.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Like, do you choose fresh? Yep.
Yeah.
I don't need to think hard about that choice.
Right. And it's not because it's not from you need to be fresh. Like, God forbid you're gross. It's you deserve to feel fresh. You deserve to feel dry. You deserve to feel comfortable. Like, there's nothing better than putting on a fresh, dry pair of underwear.
Especially when you've been not in one recently.
Right.
And like, even it makes me think too of like the insane endurance things, right? Like, I've run Ragnar before, where you're in a van for 36 hours and you just keep running. And
that's incredible.
Well, it's fun. I recommend it. But that is another great place where you're like, oh, I wouldn't have to switch out because usually I'm just running in leggings.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have to change my whole pants. I could have just changed underwear.
Good for you. That's amazing. That sounds so...
It's really fun.
Intense.
It's more yes and no. I think once you've done it, you realize it's more fun than it is intense, which is why people keep doing it. But I recommend it if you haven't done one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we ask everyone on the show where you put yourself on the Powerful Lady scale, 0 being average everyday human and 10 being super powerful lady. Where would you put yourself today? And where do you think you put yourself on average?
So I've thought about this because I know you ask this. And when I take away the element of financials, because often I equate success to financials, which I don't want to be doing. It's not about that. Right now, I feel like a 10.
I love it.
I don't always. Right now, talking with you, talking about my life, I'm surprised I didn't cry, honestly. I mean, I might still, but I was like, I'm so nervous. I'm just going to burst out crying because I get emotional.
Do you get emotional because you're proud?
That's a really good question. I think I honestly get emotional because I'm now I'm gonna get emotional. I think I get emotional because I'm so sad about how mean I am to myself. I think on the daily when anxiety is really rearing its head and that bad girl is there talking to me, I feel like a 0. I feel like an idiot. Like, why the hell would you even do this? Like, why can't you just have a normal job? Like 9 to 5. You can not think about work after work. Go out to drinks. Do the whole thing. Do the normal. Go camping. Have money. God, I've been living paycheck to paycheck since I was 18 years old. And I'm, those days, I'm like, I'm so fucking tired of it. I just wish I had like a, 90K a year job. Like, what's wrong with you? But that all comes from insecurities that I grew up with that are not my deal. Like, I need to just like give that up. So when I remove those insecurities, like, and remember my past and remember the milestones and remember what I've done, I've never lived a day regretting my past. And I've never lived a day knowing that if I died tomorrow, like, this sounds so cheesy, knowing that if I died tomorrow, what am I saying? I always live as if I was going to die tomorrow. Like, I don't want any regrets, and I just do it. And I think that because I do that, I feel powerful. But I did not expect to say 10. I'm going to say that right now. I was like, maybe I'm like a 7, but like, what makes me not 10? Like, I'm doing my best. I'm literally doing everything I can to pursue my passions in all aspects of my life. It's not just my job or my career, what I'm doing, like, even with my relationships. Like, I'm doing a lot of work this decade, and in my relationships, I've painted the landscape of what I want my relationships to look like, love and friendship included, and I'm making it happen. And I think that's also a really powerful thing. To answer your question, I think some days I feel like a 5, 0 to 5, but when I really think about it and take away the money insecurities, I feel like a 10.
You're a badass. Yep.
Thank you.
For everyone that's listening that, is on the fence about should they start a business, should they follow this idea, what would you tell them? Like, what would your advice be to them?
My gut response is just do it, because that is what we really live by and what we hear. But there's always so many variables, like, maybe you have families, maybe you have kids, like there's a unit besides yourself that you do have to think of. But the difference between just going for it and just going for it, disregarding the rest of your life, is asking the people who love you for what you need. Like, babe, I need to pursue this. How can we together make this work? Or like, I want this job here. I want to do this here. Like, you asking doesn't mean that you're not taking into account other people's feelings.
Yeah.
You're creating a positive boundary for yourself, and you'll be surprised by how much the people around you and the people who love you want to make it a possibility for you. And if they don't, then they probably shouldn't be in your life.
Yes.
So,
or not at least in the trust circle. Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, I think that's great advice. It allows you as the person taking the leap of faith in yourself and your concept to create it with other people, and also allow people to be a contribution to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's so many things that we need help with and support with and reminders. And sometimes it's not like forwarding the business. Sometimes it's, reminding us that we have a life beyond the business as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, even things like in my life when, I get the look at Jesse like, hey, like we had a whole conversation about how important it is to him that we have dinner together. Not every night, but like
I love that.
this level of normalcy, right? Like he's really committed that I don't work 24/7 because if I was not in a relationship, I absolutely could.
Oh, yeah.
And there are days when I'm like, oh, I wish he had plans tonight so I could keep working. Like that's part of my brain because I know that like I'm in the groove, or like if I just get this done today, I would feel so much better tomorrow. But I really appreciate that I have him to say, like, no, like you need to pause, you need to stop.
Yeah.
Like you can't run yourself into the wall, which I'm also good at.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Because he's prioritizing you too. Like,
Yeah.
something I really forget to do is prioritize my self-care when I'm working or I'm deep in some work shit. I think that completing the task I want to complete is going to make me feel whole and make me feel valued in myself.
Yes.
But I need to eat lunch.
Yeah.
I need to eat to eat lunch, and I need to stick to my meal plan. I need to go to meetings. I need to go to therapy. I need to wash my face and brush my teeth in the morning.
And change your underwear.
And get out of my pajamas. Yeah, change my underwear. Like, prioritizing your well-being outside of your drive is really important. And having partners like Jesse is so key, because they have your best interests at hand too, at heart too. And, eating dinner with him is a huge positive to your day and just makes it better.
Yes, it does. Well, this has been so lovely. I've had such a pleasure to talk with you again. I'm so excited about Switch Underwear, and I'm excited for everyone else to now know about it and go get themselves a pack.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. I feel like I just blacked out. Did a little powerful blackout.
I was totally serious about wanting all of my underwear to be switchable underwear. I mean, once you've been able to change your underwear on the go, why would you ever accept one leg at a time like old school underwear? I love how connected Isabel is to her brand, and that she's not just solving a practical problem, but additionally giving a voice to women and a space to have real conversations about how real women's bodies function. She really is a 10, and I hope she remembers that every day. To connect, support, and follow Isabel, you can first and foremost get yourself some pairs of Switch underwear at her Indiegogo campaign. If you go to Indiegogo.com and you put in Switch underwear, SWTCH, you'll find it right away. Plus, it's in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com/podcast. You can also find her on Instagram at Switch Underwear, again, SWTCH. And they're also on Facebook, and their website is switchunderwear.com. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Powerful Ladies podcast. There are so many ways you can get involved and get supported with fellow powerful ladies. First, subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Powerful Ladies. Join the Powerful Ladies Thrive Collective. This is the place where powerful ladies connect, level up, and learn how to thrive in business and life. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, and of course, visit our website, thepowerfulladies.com. I'd like to thank our producer, composer, and audio engineer, Jordan Duffy. Without her, this wouldn't be possible. You can follow her on Instagram at Jordan K. Duffy. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.